Everybody hungry, everybody tired, everybody slaves for the sweat of his brow. The wage is nothing and the work is hard. It's a graveyard in Hadestown. Way down, Hadestown, way down under the ground.
how I miss twirling that umbrella.
Hi, everybody. It's Monday, May 11th. David Gordon from TheaterMania here. It's my buddy John's birthday. Happy birthday, John. And we're here today with Mr. André DeShields.
Yeah.
Comedy, Drama Desk, Outer Critic, Circle Award-winning Broadway legend, all for Hadestown.
Yeah. You forgot to mention the Tony.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
How are you?
I am very well, very well.
Good. How have things been for you for the past, I don't know, 60 days or so?
Well, when the universe dropped by and said, stop, in the name of love, I knew exactly what to do. Because during 2019, which you understand was a crazy abundant year for me, and I was trying to hold tight and man up and all that sort of stuff, but it was demanding a lot of this old black man's body and his mental health. And just as I thought in the best remembrance of Samuel Beckett, I thought, I can't go on. And then I thought, I must go on. And then, of course, I will go on. The universe says, you don't have to go on. Take a break, recharge your spiritual batteries, and I'll let you know when to come back.
What are you doing with your time now?
Because of how busy I was in 2019, I neglected a lot of domestic chores, a lot of tasks that had to do with my personal well-being, because I had to be in 3 different places at the same time, all of 2019. So I knew that I was going to use this time, 1, to restore physical order in my life, and to restore an emotional and intellectual and spiritual discipline. Mm-hmm. Because, triple Capricorns aren't used to running here and there and everywhere. We're slow moving creatures built for not speed, but endurance.
Yeah, I want to talk about that, because it was literally this time in 2019 that you were being everywhere. At awards, it was award season. Hadestown was in the running. You ended up winning the Triple Crown of the Tony, the Drama Desk, the Outer Critic.
Yes, indeed.
Several more that I probably don't even, that I can't even list off the top of my head.
Yeah, but the beat does go on.
Yeah. What was award season like for you? Because it's a lot for anybody.
It is. It's a lot for anybody involved in the show that's been nominated in any category. Because not only are you doing your 8 shows a week, you are also rehearsing for the upcoming spectacular at Radio City Music Hall. And the actual day of the event, the Tony event, you're at Radio City Music Hall at 6 a.m. So that means you've gotten up at 4 a.m. You rehearse the Tony Award spectacular. Then you go back to your theater and do your matinee. Then you put on your finest drag, go back to Radio City Music Hall and do the actual performance live for the millions of people who are watching it on CBS. Then, after the Tony event, you have to do, if you're a winner, you have to do your victory lap, which means there are 4 significant appointed venues where you must appear at your best, wide-eyed, bushy-tailed. It begins at the plaza, and it ends at the party that is being given in your honor by your own show.
Yeah.
So it started at the plaza, ended at Hadestown in the Rainbow, not the Rainbow Room, but there's a venue in
I remember that
in
party.
mid-Broadway.
Yeah.
And I had not been there. So 5:30 in the morning,
Huh.
I'm leaving the last of the victory lap on my way home to keep a promise I had made to CBS. When I was interviewed after winning, no, when I was interviewed before winning the Tony,
Uh-huh.
the gentleman who interviewed me said, "I'm such a great fan of yours. I want you to make this promise to me. If you win the Tony, please come and do our 8 a.m. News show on the day after the Tony at CBS." So I said, "Yeah, I'll do that." So 5:30 a.m., I leave the last part of the victory lap because I have to go home because they're sending a car to pick me up at 7:30 a.m. to arrive at 7:45 at CBS to look,
Yeah.
rested. But I did, I did a PTA and changed my clothes, and the rest continues to be history.
Yeah. Was it the best night of your life?
No, it is one of the best nights of my life. The best night of my life was when my name was called at Radio City Music Hall, and I knew this was my opportunity to have an audience of millions of people that I could not have had if I had done Hadestown for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And I knew I had to choose wisely as to what it was I was going to say, because we had been cautioned daily, almost hourly, if you are a chosen winner, you only have 90 seconds for your acceptance speech.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. But I had witnessed through the years, many of my colleagues attempt in 90 seconds to thank 100 people. It's impossible. And I thought, just as we have adopted this phrase from 9/11, if you see something, say something.
Mm-hmm.
My mantra is, if you know something, share something. So I kept this tiny wisdom bomb close to my vest, and I said, if I'm the chosen one, this is what I'm going to drop on America. And if you recall, that was my 3 cardinal rules of sustainability and longevity. That has been up until Saturday, the 9th of May. That has reigned as the best night of my life. Now, why Saturday, May 9th? Because I spoke virtually to the graduating class of Boston Conservatory.
Uh-huh.
And they bestowed upon me an honorary doctorate of fine arts degree. Now, the beat goes on. So now that's number 1. The Tony is number 2.
You can't beat that.
No, you can't. You can't. I mean, I'm using some of this time during the pandemic to count my blessings.
Yeah.
Because when I received the Tony, I realized that adage, you reap what you sow, mm-hmm. is absolutely true. For 51 years, I had been sowing these seeds. And on June 9th, 2019, I reaped this hugely abundant harvest. So when COVID-19 appeared and everything had to be shut down, I thought, well, this is the rule. After a great harvest, you must allow your field to lay fallow until the universe conspires to say to you, here is the opportunity to plant your new seeds. So I'm satisfied to shelter at home and to maintain that distance of safety. Actually, you know, I invented social distancing. People used to, on my walk to the theater, I would always walk between the bicycle lane and the actual traffic. And my colleagues would say, Andre, why are you walking in the middle of the street? And I would say, because you're walking on the pavement. You've got your space, I've got mine.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
If you have questions for Dr. DeShields, post them in the comments and we'll get them.
I might add, Dr. DeShields.
Damn.
This is my 3rd honorary doctorate degree.
Do you learn something new each time?
Yes. I absolutely learn something new each time. This is one of the golden rules that I shared with the young people when I spoke to the graduates at Boston Conservatory. And I'm learning it for myself. Now I'm going to point because I want people to understand that this means it's for you. There is no one like you. There has never been anyone like you. There shall never be anyone like you. Therefore, know yourself. Be yourself. Authenticity is everything. I remind myself of that on a daily basis.
I don't think there's anything more important than that, too.
But so many of us either haven't realized it or did realize it and forgotten it or put it aside, or once realizing it, don't use it as a tool.
Yeah.
It can't just be intellectually observed. You have to put it in your toolbox, bring it out every day, and use it. Otherwise, as Thomas Merton says, otherwise you will attempt to walk another man's path to your home, and that's impossible.
Yeah. I want to post a couple of questions that people are asking about Hadestown.
Okay.
What do you miss most about the cast of Hadestown? Because you were a very close group. You are a close group.
And we continue to be a close group through the magic of Zoom and virtual reality, which I used to be a novitiate at, but now it's necessary.
Yeah.
So certainly weekly, we are in touch with each other. Right now, we are daily in touch with each other because one of the young ladies, her name is Afra, was about to have her child when COVID-19 shut down the show. And now we are planning the baby shower. And we're all online writing the most beautiful, poetically trenchant encouragement to her and her husband, Bradford. And we're collecting through what's it called, Vimeo, money to gift to them so that the three of them can begin their tribal life in a celebratory manner.
New life begins.
What was that?
New life begins.
Yeah, a new life begins, as so many other lives are in transition.
Yeah.
But the cast of Hadestown definitely was, or continues to be, a tribe, a family, a group of unicorns, because each of us has unique talent.
Yeah.
And every performance, we would come to the theater and bring our A game. And when this inconvenient respite was imposed upon us, we were simply beginning to hit our stride.
Yeah.
We celebrated the first anniversary of our Broadway run during the pandemic. We opened on April 17th.
Yeah. I remember the party. I was at that. It was a great party.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. In more than many ways, yeah.
What I want to talk about, we talked before you started, before we went live, about the Wiz, and you have a Wiz poster directly behind you.
Right, there it is. Nope, sorry. Wait.
Yeah.
Oh!
Yeah, there we go.
There it is. Okay, there it is.
Yeah.
So
And
you wanted to meet the wizard.
How did you come to be involved with that production? The original The Wiz.
This is one of the most beautiful stories of my career. May I tell it?
Please.
Okay. Now, it's the early fall, 1974. I've been in New York for only 1 year, shy of a year. I arrived in New York in January of 1973. So it is a year, okay.
Yeah.
And we're at the Majestic Theater. Now, this is part of the magic that doesn't happen any longer. You remember those days when, if you were auditioning for a show, you would actually go into the theater where the show was intended to play, and you would audition on the stage with the artistic team sitting in the shadow of the theater, because the only light was that magical ghost light on stage, and you would be called out from the wings. And as you walked onto the stage, you would hear your footsteps echoing, bat, 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 bat. And then you'd sing your song and thank you very much, and you'd go away. Now, my first audition for The Wiz was for the role of the Scarecrow, and I didn't make the cut. My next audition was for the role of the Tin Man. I didn't make the cut. Third audition was for the Lion. I didn't make the cut. And if you saw The Wiz, you understand I should not have made the cut for any one of those three roles. So it looked as if my audition process was over. And you can't do this anymore either. Our producer, Ken Harper, was at that audition. And as I was leaving, I said to him, Mr. Harper, I want to be the Wiz. Can I please audition for him? And he said very kindly to me, no, we're looking for someone not unlike Frank Morgan, who played the wizard in the film.
Right.
But my wheels start spinning because Frank Morgan played it as a snake oil salesman, a charlatan, a wizened alchemist, if you will.
Yeah.
Now, playing in the other side of my head is Charlie Small's music, this soulful archetype, not unlike the sound of Philadelphia or Motown. So I'm trying to match those two images Frank Morgan is going to sing R&B. So I started begging. Oh, please, Mr. Harper, let me audition. So he relented and he said, okay. And Charlie Blackwell, the father of production stage management, gave me a date to come back. So I'd only been from Chicago for a year, and I was a dyed-in-the-wool Black hippie. We are almost extinct. Now, I pulled my hair out to a Jimi Hendrix afro. I had pierced ears at the time, and I was wearing my long sterling silver Maasai earrings. I went home, I put on my silver 5-inch platform shoes. I put on my blue hot pants. I put on my red halter that had love embroidered across it. And I show up at the Majestic Theater, and they bring me in again, and you could hear the artistic team inhale. And I sang, I'm gonna wait till the midnight hour. That's when my love comes tumbling down. I'm gonna wait till the midnight hour when there's no one else around. I'm gonna kiss you, girl, and hold you and do all the things I told you in the midnight hour. Oh yes, I am. And Charlie Smalls stood up and said, that's my whiz. Ow! I ran down 44th Street in that outfit doing jetés. I was so happy. So many dreams that I had had were coming true in that moment. Dreams that my parents had had, dreams that my siblings had had, dreams that my tribe from the inner city neighborhood in Baltimore. I was representing so many people at that moment. Well, I didn't think I was ever going to come down, but here we are.
I love that story.
And for those, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
For those people who have seen Hadestown and The Wiz will recognize elements of Mr. Wiz in Mr. Hermes.
Did you work with Aeneas to build that in, or is that all like you're doing?
No, not necessarily to bring elements from The Wiz into Hermes, but because most people associate the initial success of Hadestown with the off-Broadway production at the New York Theater Workshop. But the first workshop in New York was in 2012 in the rehearsal studios of Second Stage. And I created Hermes in that workshop. And it was then that I had the opportunity to look at several of the characters I had created before and sort of choose from a menu. How can Hermes benefit from The Wiz, right? How can Hermes benefit from the Viper? How can Hermes benefit from the old guy in a horse in the Full Monty? And how can Hermes benefit from my actual DNA? Now, we didn't have CRISPR then, but I'm using that as a metaphor because I invested my DNA in creating Hermes, and I clipped a piece of it, my DNA, and I put it in that character as a boomerang. And I made this covenant with that character. I said, Hermes, if you ever jump off into a commercial production come back to me. Now, before he came back to me, 4 of the individuals performed as Hermes.
Mm-hmm.
I was patient. And then when the show went to the Royal National Theatre in London, Anais Mitchell and Rachel Chafkin came to me and said, Mr. DeShields, we would like you to play Hermes. Full circle.
Yeah.
Destiny.
Yeah. A lot of people find that Wiz story really inspiring. I'm posting
Good.
so you can see them.
It still inspires me.
Yeah. I loved your performance in Ain't Misbehavin'. I remember seeing it on TV as a kid. Love that show, and Nell Carter too.
Yes. God rest her soul.
Yeah. What was your experience with Ain't Misbehavin' like from start to finish?
Again, I live an anointed life.
Mm-hmm.
Not because I am a special person, but because I, on a daily basis, I pay respect, I pay reverence to 3 forces that I think genuinely exist in the cosmos. Forces greater than I. I make my plans. This is what my mother used to tell me.
Mm-hmm.
André, make all the plans you want. Then show them to God and let him laugh at them. Now, my mother was a devout Christian woman. That's not what I'm claiming. But I do know that there are forces in the universe greater than I. And these are the terms that I use. When I get up in the morning, I ask for a blessing from the Holy Spirit. Now, what do I mean by the Holy Spirit? The ancients used to think that there were 5 essential elements that made up the cosmos: earth, wind, fire, air, and ethos. And ethos, I don't know if we can't still do this in New York, but when you go to some place where when the sun goes down, it becomes a dark velvet sky and you can see the stars in relief, like Wyoming or Alaska, you can also see what the ancients called ether. That's the Milky Way.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that ether that they considered the glue that held everything together around the earth, which they perceived was the center of all of that. Now I'll get to the point of why I'm saying all of this eventually. All right. So that ether, that is the glue to the cosmos, is what I refer to as the Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
The next force greater than I that I pay reverence to is divine intelligence. Now, divine intelligence is that design of the cosmos that is dynamic, explosive, and violent, but not deliberately destructive.
Mm-hmm.
It's why the Earth and the moon do not collide, right? It's why there is centrifugal force, which is matched by centripetal force,
right?
Which is what keeps everything balanced. Something's pulling that way, something's pulling this way. So, Holy Spirit, ether, holding us together, divine intelligence, the design of the cosmos or the universe. And then the third entity to which I pay reverence is spaceship Mother Earth, allowing us to live on this planet free of charge.
Yeah.
She's the kindest landlord we've ever met. And she's the one who said, wait a minute, folks, wait a minute. We have to take a respite here. So you have an opportunity to look at how you have lived on this planet, how you have abused me, how you've taken advantage of me and the abundance that I've given to you, how you have assaulted me, how you have raped me. And consider, once this moratorium has had its run, and consider how you're going to coexist with me in the future. Because we all have to, this is an opportunity to create a new earth.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that you know what this old black man is made of.
I can listen to you talk forever, Andre.
All right, but I'm trying to answer the question you asked about ain't misbehaving. And why I know I have an anointed life. Because with each show that I have been involved with, I've been given the opportunity to create a character that has gone on to become an archetype that has provided employment for hundreds, I would think even thousands of other people. So the lesson I learned was, when you blaze a trail, when you open a door, when you create an opportunity, leave that aperture open for the people who are following in your wake. That's what I hope I did with The Wiz. The next opportunity I had was Ain't Misbehaving. And each time that I've done my best, I've been rewarded with a family of individuals with whom I can share lifelong relationships. I still know people who are dear to my heart from The Wiz. Now Carter is in heaven, if I may use that metaphorically. But the remaining four of us, Ken Page, Charlene Woodard, Amelia McQueen, and André DeShields, are tight like that. Now check this out. Whether you gaze at the stars or not, Ken, Amelia, Charlene, and André are all Capricorns.
Huh.
Okay? The salt of the earth. Nell Carter, who's the only one who was bestowed a Tony out of that show, is a Virgo. Now, I'm not going to go any farther than that, but those people who can relate to that will go, oh, yes, it makes sense. And those are the golden steps that one can expect from surrendering to your destiny. Creating a tribe, a family, with every experience you have, which gives great, what's the word I'm looking for? Great,
pride, honor.
Not pride, honor, no. Great, I'm going to say sustenance.
Yeah.
To the idea that we are not alone.
Yeah. I want to change the subject only because someone wants to know, who are your musical influences in your life? Who are the musical influences that have shaped the work that you've done?
I'm going to be philosophical again. Is that okay?
Please.
Okay. I'm going to answer the question, but I want you to understand that the universe loves trinities, things that happen in threes.
Mm-hmm.
And I have learned that there is a cosmic equation, probably for every individual soul, but particularly for those of us who choose the entertainment industry as our profession. And even more particularly, if the industry chooses us in return.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because the first element of the Trinity is you must have this dream. And my dream wasn't to be an actor. My dream was to be an entertainer, because I grew up watching Sammy Davis Jr., who I think is the greatest entertainer in the history of entertainment.
The old school sense of entertainment.
Yes, the old school sense of entertainment. And I looked at Sammy Davis Jr. and I say, I want to be Sammy Davis Jr. I mean, I knew I wasn't going to be him, but I want to be an entertainer like Sammy Davis Jr. I want to sing, I want to dance, I want to act, I want to smile. Now, the second part of that equation, once you have the dream that you want to be an entertainer, you must have an epiphany. Now, this goes to the question that was asked. The epiphany is that, I'm going to say it, spiritual experience that gives legitimacy to your dream.
Mm-hmm.
Your dream will always remain in your subconsciousness until you have the epiphany. And the epiphany will like alchemically blow life into it. And your dream then becomes tangible. You can see it. You can mold it. You can give it perspective and start walking toward it. That happened with me when I saw the film Cabin in the Sky, directed by Vincent Minnelli, the father of Liza Minnelli, the husband of Judy Garland. I saw it, I must have been the age of 9, back in the early 50s. Yeah, I've been around that long. And it starred what I still remember as every world-class Black entertainer. Lena Horne, Eddie Rochester Anderson, Bill Bailey, Louis Armstrong, the Duke Ellington Orchestra, and I could go on, Ethel Waters.
Yeah.
So, in the film, there is this character called Domino Jackson, I think it is, either Domino Jackson or Domino Johnson, who is played by John Bubbles Sublette, who was the inspiration for, help me out here, Porgy and Bess.
The character or
the writers?
DuBose, Hayward, and Gershwin.
Yeah, the Gershwin brothers. John Bubbles Sublette was the inspiration for the character Sportin' Life. They used him to create that character. He's the man who played Domino Jackson in Cabin in the Sky. And he appears resplendent in white from head to toe. He has that funky bowler hat, that nasty, sassy angle on his head, right? He's wearing diamond pinky rings, a 3-piece suit, a watch fob. He's got spats on his shoes. He's got a white cane, and he's spinning and dancing and tapping and splitting. And he dances across the counter of the bar, and he dances up a flight of stairs. And to my young 9-year-old eyes, it looked as if he was experiencing an annunciation. He was being consumed in clouds. Now, everybody knows that we don't live here. We don't live here. I'm gonna stand up for a moment.
Sure.
This is where we live. That's the core of our existence, our gut. If it doesn't happen viscerally, it's not happening. So there lives a quiet voice that speaks to us constantly. It's not nagging, it's giving us advice. But it never shouts, it never screams, it never raises its voice, and it only tells the truth. What happens is, though, there is so much distraction in our everyday life that we can't hear that voice. It's only when we can shut out the distractions that we hear this voice. We even feel the voice. Most people call it daydreaming. And I say, yeah, daydream as much as you can, because the voice is talking to you and helping you to sift and winnow and sort things. And at that time that I was sitting in that dark cathedral watching that film, the dark cathedral being a movie house.
Yeah.
Watching that film, feasting on John Bubbles Sublette, that voice said, André, that's what you're going to do. So I had two parts of the equation. I had the dream, which had now been made legitimate by the epiphany. The third part of the equation didn't come. Now I'm saying that's I'm 9 years old, maybe it's 1958.
Mm-hmm.
The third part of the equation didn't come until 1969, because the third part is after you have the dream, after you have the epiphany, now somebody has to say, here, I'm paying you. I'm paying you to make your dream manifest. I'm paying you to use your epiphany as a tool. And the first time on a Thursday afternoon, the company manager came to me and said, here's your check. The equation had been completed. And that was in 1969, my first professional performance in hair in Chicago at the Schubert Theater. Did I answer the question?
Yes, I think you did.
I did?
Well, you talked about how you were influenced by Cabin in the Sky.
Okay. Yeah. And because the question was, who are your musical influences?
Yeah.
Right? I wanted to be Sammy Davis Jr., but he wasn't my epiphany. My epiphany was John Sublette, Bubbles, and he had a lovely career as a part of a vaudeville duet called Buck and Bubbles.
Yeah.
And you can go online and Google it, and you can go online and Google Buck and Bubbles, and you can see the font of inspiration that Michael Jackson went to for the moonwalk. And I am not exaggerating. The moonwalk is part of a lexicon of dance combinations under a general title called the camel walk. The moonwalk is a version of the camel walk. And you can see John Bubbles do it on the top of a piano.
I'm going to have to look that up.
Yeah, Google it, Buck and Bubbles. And Buck is the little short guy, and he plays the piano. John Bubbles is tall like a string being, and he dances on the piano. And you will scream, because he does what we know as the moonwalk.
André, I want to leave you with one more question before we wrap up.
Oh, it's over already?
It doesn't have to be if you want to keep going.
Well, yeah, well, let's go a little longer. Is anybody asking questions?
Yeah, people are asking questions.
Okay.
I want to mention how you were in one of my favorite contemporary shows of all time, which was The Fortress of Solitude.
Yay! Let's hear it for The Fortress of Solitude.
Which, for the people watching at home, if you don't know that show, go on Spotify or iTunes and get that album.
Yeah.
Quick.
Michael Friedman.
Yeah. I love that show. That show did not get its due, but I'm so glad that it lives as an album.
The show didn't get its due. Well, there's nothing else to say, because it was being nurtured, if you will.
Yeah.
At the same time, at the Public Theater.
As a different show.
As a different show. As a different show. And hey.
Yeah. I love The Fortress of Solitude, though. That album is spectacular.
Thank you. I'm so glad. Yeah. Thank you so much. One of the opportunities I had in creating a character is that I could use my beard.
Yeah.
because I was playing the grandfather there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People really want to know, on a much lighter note, like, what are you watching on TV or reading, or what movies are you watching, if you're doing any of that?
Okay. Now, you say on a lighter note?
Maybe not on a lighter note.
No, I'm saying this is going to be so light, it might float away. You ready?
Yeah.
I don't have a television.
Really?
Really.
Yeah.
I've never seen an episode of what was that? What was the big thing last year?
Tiger King?
No, last year.
Oh, last
the thing that went on forever.
Oh, I don't know.
Had the dwarf guy in it.
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Never saw an episode of Game of Thrones. I've never seen Seinfeld, for instance. Never saw the episode of Seinfeld.
You heard it here first, folks. Are you reading? Do you read?
I do read.
Yeah.
And I do read, and I do have a monitor on which I can play DVDs, but I'm not a binger. I've never binged anything. And sorry.
I'm going through questions. Do you have a favorite role or a character that you've enjoyed playing most?
Do I have a favorite role?
Or a character that you've enjoyed playing most in your career?
Well, I got to give you the stock answer, and it's a true answer, but it's also stock. The favorite character is the one I'm currently doing.
Yeah.
And the most recent was Hermes. But there's some truth in that, because Hermes is an amalgam, and I alluded to this earlier, of the other characters that I have created. But this is why Hermes gets a red badge of courage.
Mm-hmm.
In my career, and also in my life, and this has a lot to do with other playing fields than just entertainment. This is political, this is cultural, this is societal, but we're not going to get into that. But more often than not, the roles I get to create come from a template that's called the magical Negro.
Mm-hmm.
I've been able to bring a sense of nobility to each of those characters, because I'm not interested in perpetrating or promulgating a stereotype.
Right.
But still, in all the success that I've had, I have hungered for the opportunity to bring erudition to a character that I am creating. And that didn't happen until Hermes. Hermes is an erudite, archetypal character.
Yeah.
That will exist. I'm not saying I'm going to exist eternally, but Hermes existed long before any of us did. And I've had an opportunity to refract him through my prism of work so that I could bring him to a contemporary audience, refresh him as you would refresh your screen for a generation who would have spent their entire lives. And if you heard the term Hermes, you would have said, who's that? What's that? But now everybody knows. And I say that's a feather in my cap.
It is. I'm putting up a compliment for you. This viewer is in awe of the way you talk and what you say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I hope this viewer is aware of this history-changing precedent. It's a Supreme Court ruling that was argued by Thurgood Marshall in 1954, I believe. And the ruling came down and is known as Brown versus the Board of Education, which forever established the illegality and the injustice of separate but equal. It's one of the most intelligent and effective blows against racial inequity in the history of this country. I bring that up because I am from the generation, the first generation, that benefited from that Supreme Court ruling. And how did I personally benefit from it? I was in grade school at the time, an all-Black grade school. And we were using texts that came to us after they had been used in all-white grade schools. We didn't have new texts. Mm-hmm. And the change that Supreme Court decision made was that we got newer hand-me-downs, texts that were in better condition. Mm-hmm. But that was a reason to celebrate. Now, get me back to that question. Why did I stop there?
The way, in being in awe of the way you talk.
Okay. Now, that's why I started with the Board of Education and the
Supreme Court ruling.
Supreme Court ruling. When I was growing up as a young colored boy, and that's what we were in the 50s, in the inner city in Baltimore, Maryland, this is what we were taught. White is might, and white is right. So I'm trying to digest that in my young head. And this is what I come up with. If indeed that is true, then I had better master the language of my oppressor, which is English. Mm-hmm. I better learn it so well for several reasons, so that I can understand what my oppressor is saying to me and about me, and that I can express myself in a way to my oppressor so that he understands me. Language, and in the bigger sense, education, is the tool that I have used to achieve what I have achieved, and I will continue to use to achieve what I have yet to achieve, which is why when I am bestowed honorary degrees, that's my evidence that I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Now, here's where Hermes comes in again, and my wish that in all of the roles I get to create, I want to create one that loves language, that uses language as a tool of power, that knows language, that is erudite. The perfect match is the god Hermes. Why? Because in the theogony, which is the history of the pantheon of Greek gods.
Yeah.
Hermes is the god who created language.
Yeah.
Now, I'm getting that together in my head, and I'm 9 years old. So the gods say, okay, 79 from 74 is what? 65.
Yeah.
65 years later, he's going to need that tool.
And here we go.
I'm playing the God who created language. So I better have a way with language.
Yeah.
I better be able to use language as a tool.
I want to flash up a comment. My whole universe opened up when you signed my Ain't Misbehavin' playbill at the age of 9.
So your parents must have brought you to Ain't Misbehavin', I would think.
This is a viewer. This is me. This is a viewer.
No, I know it's him, but I'm saying to the viewer,
yeah.
If you saw Ain't Misbehavin' at the age of 9, your parents must have brought you.
Yeah.
Right. So I want to tell you a story. We did the 10-year anniversary of Ain't Misbehavin' on Broadway. It opened at the Longacre Theater in 78. We just celebrated the 40. What? If it opened in 78 and this is
88, 98. I have to do it on my hands. 88, 98, 2000, 40, 42.
All right. We just celebrated the 42nd anniversary on May 9th. Because we opened May 9th, 1978. What am I trying to say?
Ain't Misbehavin'.
Yeah. So I signed your program when you were 9 years old. So your parents must have brought you.
Did she says?
Ain't Misbehavin'. So we did, yes. Yeah. Now, in 1988, we did the 10-year reunion of Ain't Misbehavin' with 100% of the original Broadway cast. Now, this is why I'm bringing this up. A young lady, because I'm older than she, came up to me at the end of the show, at the stage door, and she said, "This is my daughter." So she must have been like, I'm guessing now, she may have been 30 years old. She says, "This is my daughter. I'm bringing her to see you in Ain't Misbehavin' because my mother, her grandmother, brought me to see you in Ain't Misbehavin' 10 years ago on Broadway." So there I was, enjoying 3 generations of women who had seen me in Ain't Misbehavin'. So that I signed your program reminded me of that. It might have been you, I don't know. But that is the beauty of this journey that I'm on. Because there's nothing more satisfying than creating a legacy that garners respect, that gives you an indelible place in history, and that manufactures the impression that you are forever, that you are eternal.
Yeah.
So my personal aspiration is to break what I call the Methuselah Code. Now, Methuselah is reported to be the longest living individual in history. Methuselah lived to be 969 years. And I said, I want to live that long. I don't want to be old, but I want to be ancient. And I wonder about it. Did he really live 969 Earth years? Or was it a legacy because so many different generations experienced him, right? That gives the impression that this one individual was on the earth for 1,000 years. So there you go. Thank you. Thank you very much.
André, I will leave you with one more question.
Okay.
And then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
In the John Mulaney and the Sack Lunch Bunch special, you talk a lot about fear, and you're not afraid. You say you're not afraid of things, and you're not afraid of fear. I'm paraphrasing. I could be getting that completely wrong.
Yeah, you got it.
But
his question to me was, his question to everyone was in that production, because he did an interview. So when he came to me, he says, "What do you fear?" And my response was, "I don't fear anything or anyone."
I want to ask you now, what's the best piece of advice you can give in that vein to people that are afraid of what's going on in the world right now?
There is a force that lives here. I'm pointing to my brain, which is different than my mind. Okay? There is a force that wants to control your mind, and that force is called ego. Ego uses fear to control you because otherwise it cannot exist. Ego is the opposite of the voice that speaks to you quietly and says only the truth. Ego asks you, who do you think you are? Why do you think you deserve? You're too tall, you're too short, you're too fat, you're too skinny. You're too dumb, you're too smart.
Mm-hmm.
Your hair is too short, your hair is too long, your eyes aren't blue enough, your eyes are too brown. Whatever it is, you are not qualified.
Mm-hmm.
That's fear. That's manufactured. That's because there is a thing in this world called evil, called negative productivity. Now, in my profession, only two things are guaranteed. And when I say that sometimes, for instance, if I'm teaching a master class and the young participants, I say, there are only two guarantees in the entertainment industry. And their eyes get wide. I said, no, it's not fame and fortune. It's rejection and insecurity. And those are the elements of fear. Now, if when you get hungry, and you will get hungry, literally and metaphorically, if when you get hungry, you can make rejection your meal, and if when you get lonely, and you will get lonely, literally and metaphorically, you can make insecurity your companion, you have conquered fear. And you can say, I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid of anyone. Why? Because I know I can't have everything all the time, forever. I can only pursue the blessings that have my name written on them. You have just put ego in jail somewhere. You have just, with the wave of a wand, dispelled fear. Because you're looking for only that which is on its way to you.
Yeah.
I know that's deep, but it is true.
Yeah.
If you put on the blinders, remember we were talking about distraction.
Of course.
If you put on the blinders, I'm not saying the road is straight and narrow. I'm just saying, if you put on the blinders, just like we put blinders on horses because they have big eyes.
Yeah.
If you stop seeing everything that's meant for other people, you will see that which is meant for you. And although it takes time and it happens piece by piece, P-I-E-C-E by P-I-E-C-E, peace, P-E-A-C-E, will wash over you.
André DeShields, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
You, sir, are my hero and my inspiration.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Of course. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for everybody watching. We're back tomorrow at 2 with Tom Kitt.
May I get the last word?
Please.
Okay, the last word is Ubuntu, which means I am because you are.